Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Laura. This is Bailey. He's having a little nap. And today I wanted to talk to you about what we are doing to prepare to move overseas when I am 28 weeks pregnant. I'm not 28 weeks now. I will be when we move. And so I wanted to explain how we're going about that because I am a very organized person. I organized our whole wedding and it ran really well, and our event actually asked if they could use our template that I had made in order to help organize events in the future. And so I feel like we've got things pretty under control. So I wanted to share that with you so that if you are planning a big move to a different country, especially to a different continent, because we are moving basically to the other side of the world. And especially if you're doing that whilst also juggling like being pregnant, this might be a good video for you. So if that sounds like a bit of you, please keep watching the video and please subscribe down below. Let's get into it. All right, so the first thing that we did was check that we actually wanted to do this because we had been trying to get pregnant for a while. We didn't know when it was going to happen. And so we had kind of started to make further plans before knowing if we were going to get pregnant or not. And when we got pregnant, it was kind of like on the cusp of should we stay in New Zealand or should we move to Germany as planned? And initially when I found out, I thought, okay, we can't move in December like we thought we would. Baby's due in February. Then we need to wait probably till the baby's like 3 months, so things are slightly more under control. And then we could move in May of 2025. Now, we found out we were pregnant in May of 2024. And so for a day or so, I was like, okay, this is what we just have to do. We just have to be okay. And then when I really thought about sticking out our current situation for another year, when I already mentally had prepared to move like almost 6 months prior to when we found out we were pregnant, so like end of 2023, I decided, and with my husband's like agreement, that actually we wanted to move sooner rather than later. And so we decided to move when I was sort of just on that like starting third trimester mark, as that seems to be like kind of a good time to go, but gave us enough time to get stuff sorted in New Zealand. So that is how we decided we're still going to do this move and we're going to move in November. The second thing we did was to work backwards. And I think that this is where people kind of get caught out, and this is how we ended up organizing things for our wedding. And I think that this is working really well for us right now. So this basically means that you start with when you need something to be done and then work out realistically how long it's going to take to do that and work back to when you actually need to do that thing. Because oftentimes we don't kind of allow for enough time in our minds. And I mean, as a person with ADHD, like that's a struggle anyway. And so for me, I have to be really structured about it. And so it stresses me because I know I'm not going to inherently do it. So anyway, I work out what it needs to be. So like for us, we wanted our house to be sold by November. Like with the money in the bank kind of situation, or with the money in the bank soon after that. So we were like, realistically, we want to leave 3 months. That is going to be realistic for us. So working backwards, that's October, September, August. And so we got our house on the market in August. And we did have some people say like, oh, but what if it sells like straight away? What are you going to do? I'm like, firstly, that's what a settlement date is for. Like you say, you can have the property in November. But also, if it's sold for a good enough price, we're packing up all our stuff anyway. Like we could move into an Airbnb for a month if we really need to, right? But that was well worth it to be able to do those things well in advance. So that was house on the market in August. And so we contacted the real estate agents in July, and we knew that we needed to get all of our renovations finished. So we organized with friends and family to come help in like June. And we were doing a bunch of our own stuff in May, which was when we found out we were pregnant, remember? So yeah, definitely planning backwards so you can see how much time you need to actually allow for those things is a really, really good idea. And then almost making like a little calendar for yourself. That's what we have. So we had a list of stuff to do: May, June, July, August, September, October, right? So we can plan that out. And that has just been really great for getting the big stuff done in a realistic time frame, but also not stressing because we know that we have actually like thought through the planning and the time that we need. The third thing is to talk to your experts. So we spoke to a German visa specialist to find out what was going to be likely the best situation for us. We were not familiar with the visa system at all, and so we didn't know the weird intricacies of it as to whether like this visa type is particularly difficult to get, or this visa type really is kind of a catch-all, or whatever. So we spoke to him to make sure that we were going to be sort of barking up the right tree, if that makes sense. And that was really helpful. From there, then with us looking at a new visa type, and then with a couple of other like slightly funky things, we ended up talking to an immigration lawyer, and that was actually fantastic. I always feel like lawyers are going to be like, no, you can't do this and you can't do that and you can't do blah blah blah, but actually talking to lawyers, they're great because they're like, there's nothing in the law that says this, you just have to be able to prove XYZ. It doesn't say how you have to do that, it doesn't say you have to have this particular thing, it doesn't say you have to have that particular thing, right? That's not in the law. And I feel like lawyers are just like, yeah, you can do stuff, which I really appreciated. We also spoke to our pet relocation people super early. That was actually the first thing that we did, was I was like, if we can't take my bestest little buddy, I don't want to go. So we were speaking to them like 6 months before we left. And again, that was quite funny because first question was like, when are you moving? And we were like, in like 6 months. And they were like, oh, great. We have people contact us like 3 weeks before they're moving. And I was like, oh my God, that is nuts. So yeah, talk to your specialists and your experts early. For me, I'm the kind of person who will stress unnecessarily, and talking to those kinds of people can then abate my fears. I can go, these are the people who know all the things about all the stuff and they're saying it's totally fine, therefore it's totally fine. Okay, this fourth thing kind of comes back to like the working backwards, but this is planning out the big stuff, because you really don't want to leave a lot of those big things for the last few weeks. Firstly, that's when people are wanting to like catch up with you and say bye. So you kind of want to allow for that, but also you can kind of end up actually needing to do stuff before it naturally occurs to you. So like if you have 2 cars, you might not want to try to sell those just in the last couple of weeks. It might actually make sense to get one sold like a month, 6 weeks prior, work with just the 1 car so that you're not needing to do a bunch of stuff right before you go. Or like cleaning out the shed. If you're not going to be doing any more like gardening, renovation, any of that kind of stuff, get that cleared out early, because you can just go, great, tick that off. We need to sort like clothes and everything else in the last few weeks. Let's get the shed just done. Or if you need to have a bit of like just a declutter of clothes that you know you're definitely not going to be taking, do that like a couple of months out, so that when it comes time to do the other stuff, you're not having to sort through from like base level, haven't really looked at this for like a year kind of stuff, right? So yeah, plan that stuff in advance so that you're not doing everything in the last couple of weeks. The fifth thing is to work out how much you can actually take early. We definitely thought initially that we would be shipping some stuff. So my husband's a classical musician. I thought that we would be like shipping some boxes of music over, but looking at the cost even for shipping like a couple of like, you know, paper boxes, file boxes of music was going to be so horrific on the import charges into Germany that we just decided that no, we are not going to be shipping anything. And when I looked at the airlines as to like luggage allowances and all of that and how much it cost, and, you know, having different airlines and needing it to match up, all of that, we worked out that the best option for us is to take 6 suitcases altogether. So that is 3 suitcases each. It's not worth it on the import costs, but it is worth it for 6 suitcases. So that is how much we are working with. And I think working that out early was a really good idea, because it then kind of sets us up for the right mindset of what stuff do we like need to pass on to friends, or need to sell, or need to just kind of be okay with not taking with us that maybe we had hoped to, or maybe hoped to ship over and stuff like that. That was really good to do early, because now it feels like our expectations are much more realistic, and so it's going to be a lot easier when it comes to actually doing that final cull of like, we're taking this, we're not taking this. We're going to be in a much more realistic place going into it. Along those same lines, the sixth thing is to sell stuff early. Not all of your stuff will sell in like the space of a week. And if you don't start trying to sell things early, you may be missing out on hundreds or thousands of dollars just because you didn't do that admin earlier on and then have listings that kind of roll over for a month or so until someone finally buys it, and you're trying to sell it all in the last month. And we have sold some stuff sort of a month or two ago, and then we're doing another big listing now, sort of 8-9 weeks out from when we're moving, and we're going to try keep on with that, because trying to sell stuff that you're not taking with you is actually really difficult, and it's kind of never worth as much as you think it will be, right? Like, I sold my long line puffer jacket because it's a size 8, which is a US size 4, because I'm like, with my pregnancy body, I am not going to be wearing that for over a year at least, would be till I fit into that. And I'm like, I'm just not happy to hang on to it for that long, and then I still don't know if I would fit it then. So I sold that, and I sold it for $45, and I'm pretty sure I bought it brand new for like $245, right? So you do not get nearly as much money for things, so you really do want to try and get them sold early so that you can at least get something back on those items. Number 7 is to book in the key must-have things early. This has been really great for us, just knowing that those things are done, and that when we get over there, the basics are taken care of, because it's really hard trying to juggle a life that is still going basically at like 100% speed here, knowing that we're then going to be moving to a completely different country and we need to kind of have stuff going a little bit there. It's not like we're sort of students just moving into student accommodation and like, oh, it's whatever. Like, no, we're getting to Germany and having a baby 3 months later. Like, we kind of have to hit the ground running when we get there. So we have booked midwife. I got in touch with the midwives over there early. That would also be a big thing if you are moving overseas and pregnant. Get in touch with them early, because a lot of the time midwives and birthing classes and all of that can really fill up early. So we have gotten into a 2-day like birth prep course for myself and my husband a couple of weeks after we arrived, that's actually in English, which is fabulous. But we wanted to make sure that we got into that, because that was possibly going to be the only one that we could do before baby's due, right? So get into that early, get in with your midwife early, all that really good stuff. And then as soon as we get over there, we are going to be getting into like doctors, pediatrician, registering with all of that, right? We also have our Airbnb booked for the first month, and hopefully it only takes us a month to get an apartment. We have our flights booked. We got our visa appointments done 2.5 months before we were meant to leave, so that if there was any issues at that visa appointment, we realistically had time to book new appointments. All of that kind of like really important stuff of, are we going to get there? Are we going to be allowed in the country? Are we going to have somewhere to live? Are we going to have the most important medical care? Like all of that stuff. Take care of that as early as you can. That would be my advice. Okay, and lastly, this is the 8th thing, and this is especially important if you are moving overseas, pregnant, pregante, is to let your family and friends help, or like ask your family and friends to help, because moving overseas is no joke. And I think moving overseas pregnant, especially if you have other kids, we just have this little guy, is no joke, right? And it can be stressful at the best of times. And then when you are also dealing with being pregnant, it's even more so. And it's even more important to make sure that you are calm and that you are not stressed. So for those of us, especially who like struggle to ask for help, really try lean into that. Moving overseas, being pregnant, these are all really, really great reasons to lean on your family and friends as much as you can. And this is the time when people are so incredibly happy to help, to inconvenience themselves to be able to help you, because this is when it really, really counts. So if you are finding that you're getting really overwhelmed, definitely do lean on people as much as you can. So that is my list for today. We are getting really excited now. It's getting to the point where sort of starting to mentally check out of everything here, because we're just really ready to get into the next stage. But of course, there is still so much to do here. So it's a bit of that weird kind of headspace. But we are hoping to get a hold of our suitcases this week and start trying to see how everything fits in and look at that early as well, which is just really, really exciting. I love that point where you start trying to see how stuff fits into suitcases. That's like my favorite thing. I don't know if that's weird, but whatever. So anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me. Bailey has just been sleeping here the whole time. His little feet are now going. He's like running in his sleep. That is why I'm recording here, is because I knew he wanted to nap here with me, but I needed to talk to you guys. So he's napping, I'm chatting, and it's all going well. Thank you so much for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Bye.